My name is Raina. I married John, a former colleague of mine, when I was 28. John was raised by a single mom, Sandy, so he wanted us to live with his mom after we got married. I was fine with that and decided to quit my job. On my last day at work, my colleagues bid me farewell, and I moved into John's family home. I thought disputes between mothers-in-law and daughters-in-law wouldn't concern me, but boy was I wrong when I started living with Sandy. "Welcome, Raina. We're an open family here." Sandy greeted me warmly, and I liked her initially, but the niceness was short-lived. If I cooked, she'd say, "Yuck, this is terrible, Raina. You can't cook." "Oh, sorry, I say whatever comes to mind." And if I took a break, "Raina, have you put on weight? Your back looks sturdy all of a sudden." "Oops, there I go again, speaking my mind." I wasn't gaining weight. I was actually losing weight from stress. Sandy seemed oblivious to the stress she was causing me. "Hey, Raina, you look awful. Dark circles under your eyes, and you shouldn't let yourself go because you're married. John might run away, especially since you're not all that pretty to begin with." Enough is enough. I'm not the most patient person. I've put up with this because we're family, but I was getting fed up with the constant jabs. I decided to stand up to Sandy. "I get it, Sandy. You're outspoken and you say what's on your mind. But if you keep telling me every day that my cooking is bad, I'm bad at cleaning, I've gained weight, or I'm not pretty, I might just lose it." Sandy, who was nibbling on a cookie while I spoke, seemed genuinely shocked that I'd stand up to her. After a pause, she sighed deeply, clearly displeased. "Oh, I was saying these things for your own good, Raina. It makes me sad to hear you talk like this. I thought of you like my own daughter, so I don't hold back. If you're that sensitive, you won't be able to handle what John does either." "Huh? What are you talking about?" With her chin raised, Sandy swiftly retreated to her room, leaving me puzzled by her cryptic words. I had a sense that John was hiding something from me. Sandy, never one for keeping secrets, was terrible at hiding the truth. From that day on, whenever Sandy made snide remarks, I started responding with phrases like, "That's hurtful," or "I find that offensive." As if to get back at me, Sandy began dropping hints about John's secret little by little. I can see why John would do something like that. "John's business trips have increased a lot since we got married. I wonder why." One day, I couldn't take it anymore. Sandy spilled the beans. "Raina, you're so sensitive. It's understandable that John would stray." "You just admitted it." "What?" Sandy feigned confusion as I shoved my phone in her face. "I recorded our conversation. This will be evidence of John's infidelity. I'm planning to divorce him and seek damages." "What? No way! I might be mistaken." "No, John has been unfaithful. I have plenty of other evidence, too. I intend to divorce him and get a nice sum from his affair partner." Truth be told, I didn't need Sandy's admission. I had already gathered plenty of evidence on John, but I recorded her words out of a sense of revenge. When it came to divorce negotiations, playing that recording, John had him exclaiming, "Mom, why?" Sandy shrunk in her seat, mumbling apologies. And so my marriage to John came to an end after just a year. We consulted a lawyer, and it was agreed that I'd receive financial compensation from both John and his affair partner. I also knew the day I would be leaving this house full of in-laws. Sandy might lack common sense, but her son John was no better. After our divorce, he was planning to marry his affair partner, Zaria, and had the audacity announced that they, including Sandy, would be going on a honeymoon. And they planned to leave the day I was moving out. Just as I thought I never meant anything to John, I felt disgusted toward him, Sandy, and his affair partner. Before my moving day, Zaria had no qualms about coming to the house. She would hug John, spread out travel magazines on the living room table, eat the food I prepared, and then leave. Is her skin made of steel? I wondered. Sandy wasn't just unkind to me. She treated Zaria the same way, too. But Zaria didn't seem to mind. When Sandy said, "Wow, you really caked on the makeup today. It's a bit overpowering. Zaria replied, "Oh, my makeup is really on point today." I was shocked. Maybe you need a heart that strong to be the wife in this house. I actually felt a bit of admiration. Still, my days living in this in-law's house were a series of hardships. Sandy berated me, my husband cheated on me, and on the day I was leaving, no one was there to say goodbye. I was the one who should have been sending them off, not the other way around. Early in the morning, I saw John and Zaria ready for their honeymoon, and Sandy stood there with a smile. I was in a complicated emotional state, but I politely said, "Thank you for having me," and left. They wouldn't be back for a while, so I had time. However, I didn't have much to pack, so I was done in one day. I contacted my brother and sister, who offered to help me move. "We're on our way," they said, so I messaged John, too. "I finished packing sooner than expected, so I'll be leaving. Thank you for everything." He replied instantly. The message came with a picture. John, Sandy, and Zaria, all smiles, were in a group photo. "If you've got time, why don't you clean the house, too? We're off to enjoy our honeymoon," it said. That made me burst into tears. What was my marriage, really? I gave up my career for this, only to be treated like a maid and receive no love in return. Getting sent a group honeymoon photo with Zaria was the last straw. I felt so pitiful I started crying loudly. My brother and sister walked right in since I'd left the door open. They were shocked to see me crying so hard. "What happened? What's going on?" they asked, half panicked, comforting me. I showed them the group photo while sobbing about my life so far. My kind-hearted sister, Shell, even started crying and said, "You've had a really hard time, haven't you?" After a good cry, I felt calmer. I apologized for my breakdown and said, "Let's get going." I thought this was my final goodbye to the in-laws' house. But then my sister Patty showed me a photo on her phone. "Look, this wifed her cheating husband by turning all his clothes inside out." The picture Patty showed me was filled with clothes turned inside out. "Gosh, that would be so annoying to deal with," said my brother Lynn. Patty chuckled like a mischievous child. "You should do this, sis. It's not like you're destroying anything, so you can't get sued. Plus, it'll be super annoying for them. This kind of revenge is allowed." I was blown away by Patty's suggestion. Right. I've had it rough enough to warrant a little revenge. Let's flip everything upside down, empty the drawers, line everything on the floor, I proposed, feeling like a kid again. Patty and my brother and sister Shell all chimed in. "Sounds great!" Luckily, we had plenty of time on our hands. Just like building a secret base as kids, we had fun turning everything upside down. During the chaos, Shell mentioned, "I found a bunch of boxes. Let's set up some dominoes." I was more than happy to join in. We lined up boxes from curry roux to medicine, creating a massive domino setup that reached up to the second floor. Patty was busy arranging flipped clothes and socks in a gradient around the room, nodding satisfactorily as if she'd finished a masterpiece. The neatly lined flipped clothes were so beautiful, I couldn't help but exclaim, "That is amazing!" While we were doing all this, my younger brother came in, holding a box of marbles and old toys. "Let's scatter some caltrops," he said. "Like in the movie Home Alone," we exclaimed. We then spread the marbles and toy cars all across the doorway. By the time we were done, my in-laws' house was a total wreck. It was as if we'd dumped out a toy chest, the likes of which I'd never seen. We were a bit tired, but the exhilaration outweighed it all. Feeling accomplished, we took pictures from every angle to commemorate our handiwork. In that dreaded in-laws' house, the only reason we were able to make some positive memories was thanks to my younger brother and my sisters. Not to mention John and his crew, who conveniently went on a ridiculous honeymoon for a long weekend, also contributed. Of course, when John and his gang got back from their honeymoon, we received complaints, but I totally ignored them. John and his family no longer matter to me. Besides, I had just moved to a new place and was busy adjusting and job hunting. I eventually found a new job, and although I occasionally remembered the pain John and Sandy had caused me, those memories faded away after a while. Meeting a kind man at my new job who accepted me as I am and starting a new relationship also helped me escape that painful past. But 3 years after divorcing John, my peaceful days, filled with a rewarding job and the love from this gentle man, were disrupted. A message arrived from John. I had moved on and found love with a man named Gerald, who proclaimed he loved me, Raina, from the moment we met. We got married, had our first child, and were busy with the joys and challenges of parenting. To be honest, I had forgotten all about John. When I left the messy in-laws' house, I was so caught up in my little revenge scheme that I forgot to block John's messages. Curiosity piqued. I opened a message from John and found he had sent me a picture. But it wasn't some happy group shot. The picture showed the in-laws' house, a total disaster zone. "Raina, it's hard to believe it's been 3 years since we divorced," the message read. "Time flies. My new wife may be young, but she's utterly useless around the house. Fun to laugh with, maybe, but not someone to share a life with. I find myself thinking about you all the time lately. How are you? Are you happy? I pray every night that I can see you again." I burst into laughter reading this message that sounded like a desperate love letter, but managed to hold it in since I'd just put the baby to sleep. The state of the room in the picture was horrendous. You could see John's new wife, Zaria, sprawled among the trash, watching TV. She had put on a lot of weight. Nothing remained of the woman who'd gone on that ridiculous honeymoon. Sitting in the chair up front, Sandy looked extremely thin and frail, a far cry from the energetic bully she used to be. I was torn about whether to reply, but thinking about those days got me so riled up that I decided to have my final revenge and reply. "I'm incredibly happy now. My new husband is kind and really loves me, completely different from you. We're blessed with a child, and I'm fully committed to raising her. Your life seems a bit tough, huh? Your new wife has certainly grown, not in a good way, and Sandy looks unwell, almost like a grandma. Oops, sorry, I'm just a person who speaks her mind. My married life with you was horrible. The only fun part was playing pranks when you guys were off on your honeymoon. Don't bother thinking about me anymore. Enjoy your life. Bye." Having sent my fittingly outrageous reply to that outrageous family, I blocked John's messages. So I don't know what happened to John and his crew afterwards. However, years later, when I drove past the old in-laws' house, I noticed that it had been demolished, leaving only empty land. I can't help but think something must have happened. As we drove by the site of the former in-laws' house, Patty started to say, "Mommy, Uncle, and Auntie play games here like in Home Alone." But I interrupted her laughing. "That's a secret." And so we drove past the remnants of what was once the in-laws' house.